former trainer of the year, Virgil Hunter, and I really enjoyed listening to John, Charles, and Frank on Real Boxing Talk.
And again, we intro laughing.
Of course. That's a play, Frank.
Yes, I know. That's what I was going to say. Anyway, I'm done with references for the day. So anyway, okay, we are back on the Ultimate Sports Network. This is Real Boxing Talk, talking about real boxing and the things that have happened and the things that are going to happen. And as someone said, it's time for me to gloat. I won't do that, but we'll just say that it's a gloatable an event if that's at all possible. Let's go back to what happened last weekend now. Let's get this tied up because there's some things that we needed to look at and to be serious for about 3 seconds, that we're looking at a changing of the guard without it being a changing of the guard, which I think is interesting. Triple G beats Murata, but I don't know that changes anything. John, does that change the landscape of that division and what's going on? Or is that just Triple G Canelo again? Is it Murata down? What happens because of that defeat?
All it did is, as long as Canelo wins, they're going to fight again. That's all it did. He didn't look that good. He looked. His footwork was kind of odd. I don't know if you guys watched it. He looked like a 40-year-old guy laboring at times. I mean, let's be honest. I hate to say it because I like him. He's always been a very decent person. And I like that when a fighter's a decent person too. And he's a good fighter. He's not a great fighter, but he's a good fighter. He found his rhythm finally, but man, he's right there to be hit. And Canelo is just going to go to town with him. I mean, I don't hate to say that, but he's past it. And I think he knows it deep down because he had a rally. That fight was very competitive for 5 rounds. He was probably even behind, but he's done that the last 6 or 7 years. He gets behind in fights and then he finds something and then he starts doing it. And he still hits hard. Like I say, the last thing they lose is their power. And Murata had only been down like once or twice and he clobbered him with those right hands and down him. I mean, he just beat him up basically like another fight we were talking about. But he had to, and I think I put on Max Boxing, he won, but it wasn't easy. And it wasn't. So it really doesn't change anything. I think he can't risk fighting any of the other top young guys because the same thing could happen to him. Benavidez, any of the 168ers, even Andre. I mean, I don't know. Andre is unproven, but he's got the kind of style that would drive Triple G nuts because Triple G can't. The key is with him, like a lot of punchers, you just back him up, and then he doesn't fight good backing up, and everybody's figured that out now. And now his legs aren't as good as they were. He looked like he was in great shape, but then he looked like he was really tired. I don't know if you guys saw it in the second round. He was really blowing hard. I'm like, but he won. And everybody who likes him can fool themselves and say that he looked good. He looked like a 40-year-old former champion that had enough left to beat a 36-year-old who tried as hard as he could. Got to give it to him. He gave it everything he got, no regrets. Triple G is just a better fighter, better level, and he won. It's as simple as that.
And I think in the lead up to the fight, we as in the world glossed over the fact that Murata isn't 25, he's 36 as well. So that's that kind of thing of where's the challenge coming from? Is it coming from a young, up-and-coming, hungry fighter, or is it a guy that might be on his way down as well? So that was kind of the way that played out. And Charles, your thoughts on how this works, because I think what John said is was perfect. If he's fighting Benavidez or Andre or Charlo or somebody, he could have some serious problems. But if he fights Canelo, it's another fight. I know that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but it does to me. It's like, he knows what he's going to see with Canelo, so I doubt that he's going to get hurt, but he doesn't have a chance to win. Is that the right way of looking at it, or am I a little stretched there?
No, I think you're on point. He just looks older. As John said, he looks like he's 40, maybe a little older than that, but he's going to come in. He wants to fight. He's going to do what he has to do and face Canelo because he wants to fall on his sword, right? And I think he still thinks he has a chance that if he might catch him and see what the hell happens. So, and he's also probably going to tell you too that he's ready, right? He's ready. He's like, I'm going to get up for it. Maybe I was a little tired. Maybe I didn't take it as like I should have, but this is my other opportunity and I'm going to show the world. So until he gets in the ring again with Canelo, you really can't say that's not going to be the case. We can only go off what we saw, right? But he's going to say, I've been waiting on this and I'm going to get up for it and blah, blah, blah. But Yeah, I mean, I don't think it, like you said, I don't think it changes anything, but I think that's where it is right now. So yeah, he'll come in and his job was to survive. He did more than survive. And now it's on to the next step.
And he's also going to tell you that he won the first 2 fights.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, he did win the first one. I agree with him, not the second one, but that was what 4 or 5 years ago too. So
right.
there's that.
There's a lifetime away for boxers, right? But I from listening and reading some of the things that he's had out there, he said I won both fights, so I'm not worried. I'm worried about other people more than I'm worried about that guy, about Canelo, because I know how to beat him. So maybe that's that mentality as well. Yeah, I know it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't.
No, it would if you were him. I would be thinking the same thing. You got to figure out a way to make yourself believe you can do this, and that's a better way than a lot of ways. I'm sure he has doubts privately, but that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. Okay. Now we also had Ryan Garcia. Now I didn't get a chance to see that one because that was just in a mix of a whole bunch of other stuff. What happened there, John? What are you looking at there?
Ryan Garcia is, people either love him or hate him. He's becoming very polarizing. And see, I don't know if, okay, let me start again. I got distracted for a second. He is, to me, Carlos Palomino is going to give me that left hook to the gut when I say this. He is so overrated as far as I'm concerned. He hasn't done anything to generate so much response. I mean, okay, here's an example. I don't argue with people about boxing because it's a waste of time. Everybody has their own point of view. That's fine. A lot of people are very passionate about it. Somebody put how good he is and everything. And Oscar said, there's nobody right now that could beat him at 135. And I said, Oscar, when you were 135 pounds, you could have beat his ass. I mean, seriously, he'd have beat him. I have no doubt about it. He's got flaws. And one of these days, like with Campbell, caught him, but he can punch. So I guess if you're going to compare it to another fight we're talking about, a big, tall guy, a lot taller than him, the towering guy that we're going to talk about, maybe that's what's intriguing to him is he's got his head up like this, and if he fights a guy named Tank is aiming at that chin as long as he doesn't get hit. So I'll soften it a little. I'd say he's overrated. He's good, but he's not the second coming. That's what I don't like when people do that. He won by decision. He was fighting a guy from Ghana who is a very tough guy, or if you remember I Corte, who gave Oscar De La Hoya hell. These guys are tough guys. The guy didn't just stand there and slug with him, though. He boxed him, and he said he ran, of course. Everybody says you run when you fight. He moved around a lot, but that was his only chance. So if that's a guy's only chance, what do you expect him to do, And he lasted the distance. And Ryan was all frustrated and everything, and he knocked him down once. But it was a dud. You didn't miss anything, Frank. It was a dog of a fight. I didn't even put anything on Max Boxing about it. I didn't like that Eddie did good. I should have put something. I got something, but I went, nah. It was a dog. It was boring. Like I said, whatever you were doing, you made the right call because it was not a fight that you would be raving about right now. If you would watch it, you'd be like, yeah, he won a 12-round decision. If you remember one more Oscar De La Hoya comparison, if you remember when Oscar fought Stevie Forbes years ago, very similar to that, 12-round snoozer. And that was the other thing that Ryan Garcia does that drives me insane is he loads up with all his punches because he wants the big knockout. And he fights a guy who's got a little skill like him. Nope, he's not going to do that because he's going to lose. And then everybody keeps telling him that he's the second coming, including his trainer, who I really respect, Joe Goosen. I don't think that's very smart. I like Eddie Reynoso's style better, where he'd kick you in the butt and go, what are you talking about? You can't be pampering these guys because that's when you lose, when you get pampered. So yeah, well, Charles, so you didn't miss a thing, Frank.
Yeah, Charles, that was the question I was going to ask. Is it that he's pumped himself up, or is it the rest of the world has pumped him up? Because this is when you start talking about these guys in these divisions, that name keeps coming up, and you guys and myself have said, I'm not sure that he belongs in that conversation, but he seems to think he belongs in that conversation. If Joe Goosen thinks he belongs in that conversation, who am I to argue? But I'm not going to. I'm going to let you argue.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's the rest of the world is doing it. I think it's a select few, certain people. The people that are representing him, of course, from Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, or Joe Goosen, whoever is working with him now. I think they keep telling him how good he can be and how great he can be, has great potential. But I don't think the rest of the world is going, oh, he's so great, because other people, particularly other boxers, are calling him out, saying, if you would just get in the ring, we'll show you. So I think there's a select party, a select group of people that are doing it. And you're right. It's kind of the way of the society oftentimes. I told you how much that disturbs me from the past is you don't let guys prove themselves. They have not earned anything. You just go out with potential. I mean, when you talk about basketball, and still people were talking about how coming out of LSU, they thought Simmons was going to be a great point guard. When you realize he can, just because you dribble in 16 can dribble the ball, doesn't make you a great point guard. There was only one Magic. Always only will be one Magic, and they broke the mold. But the point of getting back to this is they are rewarding guys for potential. It's like watching NFL draft or NBA draft. You draft a 7-footer and you don't know, you say, oh man, he's going to be great. 3 years down the line, you're like, what the hell do we do? So instead of giving them all these accolades, let him get in the ring. You can talk about potential with Ryan Garcia, and he has a long way to go. Can he be great? You could have said, Canelo had a lot of potential, but he got exposed by Mayweather. It took him time to become the guy that's sitting on top of the hill. And when he was 20-something years old, he wasn't sitting on the hill when he got exposed by Floyd. So I'm always at that mindset of this quick media and this non-traditional media. Everybody's excited about how great you are and what they think you're going to do without any type of accomplishments. And that's part of the problem. Because when people get exposed and lose, then you go, well, I thought he was that good. And it's like, well, hell, read the tea leaves or whatever you're looking at. Read the notes. Look at the performances. He's showing you that, well, he was rusty. Okay, but you got a long way to go. And if he steps in there with some guys of a higher quality talent, he could be in trouble. So, why not go to the gym, work around, do what you got to do, work on your craft, be quiet, and walk your way up by earning your way up the ladder instead of acting like somebody definitely owes you something. Because that last performance saw a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
A lot of flaws.
You mean we just can't go by what Ketchup Lover 426 says on Twitter? They actually have to pay attention to what's going on and actually invest some time and see what's happening? Oh, that's not the way the world works. What are you thinking?
Well, I guess I'm old then.
You are. You should have my gray hair. All right, now, Let's flip it around a little bit. Nope, don't want that. Let's flip around a little bit because we saw some things that maybe we shouldn't have seen. Okay. All right, so let's start with the undercard of this fight. Tony Harrison against Sergio Garcia. Charles, what did we see from Tony Harrison that we needed to see or didn't need to see? Or, yes, I know.
That's the golden boy down there, so don't mind him.
That didn't look any better. We only have so much time today.
Wait, no, you're in charge. Let's go.
No, okay, so from Tony Harrison, what did we see that we needed to see from Tony Harrison, or did we not need to see Tony Harrison at all?
No, you need to see Tony Harrison, okay. Right? Because when you think about the fight that the last fight with Charlo, we saw him and he took the loss, but then even after that, he was okay. He wasn't the guy we thought was going to evolve after fighting a guy like Charlo on that level. Right, particularly after defeating Charlo. You're like, okay, well, he's ready. He can take almost anyone on. But this particular fight, he was in a fight with a gamer. The guy was really busy and he was coming forward and he's doing a lot of punches. And Harrison was a little slow starting the fight, right? He didn't know how it was going to work out. But to me, that's where I consider it, or I call it his championship pedigree started to come on. And he started looking like the guy that we thought he could be. And he started looking like the guy that not so much was more impressive like Charlo, but he started to look like a guy that was clearly better than his opponent. And I think that's what you look for. You want a guy that's been in the ring. He's been in the championship rounds. He's held a belt before. Even though the opponent is really solid and being very aggressive, there's certain things, there's different levels. We talk about this all the time. You want to see the guy that's on that next level showcase his skills and show you, okay, yeah, you're busy, you're a gamer, and if I sit back and let you hang around and do what you do, I could be in a little trouble. But Harrison stepped up to the plate and said, you know what, hey, all right, now let's look, all right, that's enough now. Let me show you what I really do, and let me show you who I really am. And I think that's what he did, which is really impressive because, like I said, the guy was still coming after him. We've seen in the last few weeks, last couple months, guys receiving a lot of hype, supposed to be the A side or the favorites, and they didn't come across like they were supposed to, and the so-called subpar opponents took them down, right? So, but Harrison was like, hell no. So he showed us that, I'm the favorite. I'm the guy that you're looking for, and I want to make it happen. So that's what he did. And at the end of it, it was like, hey, here we are, and this is what we're doing. So I think he moved forward with proving that he's still in that area. You may not be at the top, but he's a worthy opponent and deserves to receive a shot at something, because he has one belt or whatever, but he's set, I guess my point is he has set his place in the guys that you would consider when you talk about championship belts.
And that's the thing of what we're looking at is that, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, there's something to having been a champion, having been to that place, having been in those championship fights, having gone down that path to understand what it takes to get back to that in the middle of the fight.
Yeah, and we remember last week we were talking about, well, we don't know if he's really into it anymore. We don't know. He's 32. He lost his title. He's totally refreshed. I was impressed by him more than anybody because here comes Charles. He was using Charles's favorite word. In that whole fight, he was crafty as hell in that fight. He boxed well. He stick his chin, and then he looked really good. I didn't expect him to look that good because I had questions. I expected him to win, but he was sharp. Like Charles said, he started a little slow, but man, when he found his rhythm, he outboxed that very determined Sergio Garcia, who we know gave Fundora a pretty tough fight in his last one. So it wasn't even close. He won like 10 rounds, maybe 11, maybe all of the rounds, really. He was right on point, as Charles says, and it was a very impressive performance. He reminded people why he's such a tough guy to fight, because he's not awkward, but he's slick. And you fight a slickster like him, that's always going to be, he's going to sneak a right hand. He did like a little Floyd Mayweather, he'd go here and then bam with the right hand. And it was like, man, I love that. Cause that's real talent when you can do that. So yeah, he being the ex-champion, of course, always helps, but then he's doing something that some guys don't do, which is he loses his title and then they start going downhill, especially at 32. No. He looked like, hey, I'm just reminding all you that I'm ready to go, and whoever wants to fight me next, I'm ready. So it was a very top-notch performance by him.
And I was thinking, and I think we talked about this maybe off there a little bit, that this was the fight where, because we had seen him not look like he wanted to be back in the ring. Like he was just like, well, this is what I do, this is what I have to do, but I'm not sure that I really want to do this. And I think this fight proved that he wanted to get back in there, and he wants another shot at the title. Now let's look at the co-main event of that bill. And this is one of those things, John, that I think is interesting. This is not me gloating. This is actually an actual question, though. This is where did the winner get exposed and maybe show why he's not going to be able to go any further? We were talking about this earlier. Fundora beating
Lubin.
And you're like, okay, well, the winner may not have been the winner in this fight.
If you had seen him fight, you weren't surprised what happened, because that's why I thought Lubin would win, because Lubin has more skills, and he would find a way to expose him, in the sense, not expose him is the wrong word, hit him enough times that he would feel it, and he almost got him, which was an incredible guts from Lubin to come back from all that. And only, man, if he wasn't exhausted from having to hit him about 100 times and knock him down, he'd have got him. But no, he is what he is. As I said, we were saying, Frank, off air, he's not going to have a long career if this is how he fights. But, you know, you made a good, and this is not if this is how he fights, that is how he fights. You made a good point. If somebody starts tweaking him, he's going to lose what got him there, which is, you know, his offense is his defense. And he hits hard, obviously, and he's relentless. And if you've ever seen a guy who's relentless, like the Tank was before, and not as much now, but like he was, I mean, guys can't deal with that, especially when the guy's got heavy hands. And he's a scarecrow, you know, he's a skinny guy and all that, a beanpole, whatever you want to call him, but he hits hard. And I brought up Danny Little Red Lopez as being a skinny guy of 5'7", 124 pounds, and knocking everybody out. This guy's not necessarily knocking everybody out, but he's hurting, and he hurt Lubin. He broke his nose, and Lubin separated shoulders, we know. And I mean, it was a brutal, possible, well, not possible, fight of the year candidate. And the round, it was round 8, I think, was the round of the year, probably, when Lubin came back. So no, he is what he is, that cliche that's used all the time. Anybody who fights him knows if he fights the winner of Charlo and Castano, both of those, whoever wins that fight, they're both going to go, okay, well, we know what to expect with this towering guy. He's going to come right at me, and he's going to be there. So I'm going to have to figure. Real quick, the guy that gave Lubin the best advice, and unfortunately couldn't take it, was his trainer, Cunningham, who kept telling him to step to his right and fire. And he just couldn't do it. He was too tired, because when Lubin would fire, he rarely missed. So if you like him, you better enjoy him, because I think if this is how he's going to go, his career isn't going to go. I mean, he seems like a super nice kid, and I don't want him to get his brains rattled by the time he's 50, can't talk, but he takes way too many. It's the same thing that I used to worry about with Matthew Saad Muhammad years ago. It's like he takes way too many punches, and we know what happened with Saad. Eventually, it catches up with you, and it's going to catch up with him if he gets into these hard, brutal fights with these guys who are so good or better than him technically. He's going to take a beating too, and one of them are going to get him.
Okay, well, Charles, give me the flip side of that. What did we get positive out of the fight? What do we see moving forward, or is it basically they did what they did, and now we put them over here in this subset and let everybody else fight for the titles over here?
Well, I don't know, but what positive came out of it. I think there's a lesson learned by Lubin, and one of the things I mentioned to you guys off air is the factor that I think Lubin would have had a better chance, but watching that fight, he went off script, man. You know, the trainer was telling him, you know, boxing move, as John said, move to the right, he's there. You know, he got into his head that he needed to go in there and battle this guy, because the guy likes to fight on the inside, and he's on the inside. A big guy like that shouldn't be on the inside. He should be using the jab. But Fundora was just the opposite. He comes in and he fights, and the uppercut really was very damaging. And then also, and as Frank said, you told us, I don't think the fight would have been the way it would have turned out the way it would have if Lubin would have followed the script. The script is boxing, moving around. You're not the bigger guy. And I think if he had done that early on by boxing, moving around, if he had to engage later on in the fight, like he did and go into a war, then he possibly could have maybe stopped him or done something. But he had exhausted all his energy trying to fight on the inside, trying to do something that really wasn't on the game plan, that he lost it all. So he ended up fighting for his life. And he came up very impressive with the knockdown and whatnot, but he had nothing left. He had nothing left at all. But imagine if he had started boxing rounds 1 through 3 and started moving around a little bit, then if you had to engage in a war down the line, you have more stamina, more energy. But the way you saw his face, he said his nose was broken. Hell, I think his jaw was broke too. You can see the way it was I mean, so many things he was just figured and whatnot that if he had followed and you could hear his trainer telling him, you're not listening to what I'm asking you to do. If he had done that, I think it would have been a different fight. Fundora might have still won, but Lubin, I think he took himself out of the game. He took himself out of any chance of winning by going off script. And it's like he's still right there. And then after a while, one thing as John said, Fundora can throw, man. He can punch. Those body shots, and that uppercut was sick. He was catching them all the way. But again, I think Fundora is who he is. He probably is going to get rocked a little bit, but if you get anything positive out of Fundora's like, I don't have anything, I don't have nothing to lose, bro. I wasn't supposed to win this fight. So if nothing else, he's going to get a check. He's going to cash in, should cash in for a decent amount of money, and whatever happens, happens. But for Lubin, it's like, you got to learn how to fight the script, because imagine this. We saw it. This is what really surprised me. I'll get off this very quickly. I was surprised that he came in that way, because the last time he tried to come in there, he got knocked out in the first round. So you would think he'd be a little bit more hesitant than trying to go toe for toe. I know he's feeling good about being back where he was and had some impressive victories, but you're supposed to learn from your mistakes. And if he comes in there to fight Charlo again, and you wild out there like that again, you already know it's gonna happen. And that's just from what you see. And unfortunately, I think he did himself a disservice, unfortunately. And that's why it's a loss.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we said that last week. Remember, like we always say, styles make fights. And we said that if he fights Fundora style, and he did. Cunningham was, when he came out of the corner, Cunningham like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
This isn't what we trained for. This isn't, what do you, and he go, yes, sir, okay. And he nod, okay. Then he'd go out and do the same thing. I mean, I was just thinking, if that was me as a trainer, I would be pulling my hair out. I'd be like, God, we trained for 8 weeks and you go in and fight this guy's fight?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like when we used to play basketball and they'd say, okay, favor the guy's right hand because he goes to his right all the time. And suddenly the guy, your team, your player is not doing it. You're like, we've been talking about this for weeks. What happened? And I don't know what Lubin maybe he got in his brain that this is the only way he could win was by knockout. And even though he would agree with Cunningham and say, okay, yeah, okay, sir, yeah, I'm going to do it. He'd go out and do the same thing.
It was obvious from the beginning that they should have flipped, what we would assume. The tall guy wants to be on the outside, the smaller guy wants to be on the inside. It was obvious from the outset that it should be the exact opposite. And Lubin didn't get the message. Like
he hit right in the first 10 seconds. He hit Fundora with a left hook right on the chin, and it was a good punch. Fundora just looked at him, but I thought, well, there you go, because he's got faster hands. He's a better athlete. Right. He can do this. But then he got away from that. He didn't. How many times did he jab? He almost never jabbed.
That's what I was about to say. He should have set stuff up with the jab, where you would think the taller guy would do that, and he did. He got stuck in a war, which, as we said last week, or one of us said, that a war was going to go down to Fundora because that's what he wants. Even though it seems to be counterintuitive to what he should want, that's what he wants. Now, the question I have for both, and we'll get off this real quick, can he develop those tall guy skills, or as John, you've already answered, I'll ask Charles that, or is it that he's stuck with who he is because that's his mindset, and can he progress with that, Charles?
I mean, he's young enough, so yeah, he can learn, but it's going to take some time, right? I mean, it will take a lot. Plus, he has to be open to it. If he's going to fight, I mean, it's hard to, some guys are just one-trick ponies, right? I mean, you say what you want to. People love Tyson. Tyson was a damn one-trick pony. He was. I mean, he had with the hooks and whatnot and the other stuff, he's a one-trick pony. And when they finally realized what you could do to him, then they just beat him down. I mean, once they found out the formula, it'd be like, oh, the great Mike Tyson. But then when you found out that you were bigger than him and you headbutt him and do some other things to him he don't like that he doesn't like, it gets him out of his game. So I think Fundora has to be open to it, and he has to find somebody that really understands how to train him properly. You can't do this over a 5-week period, think he's going to catch on. It's going to take some time. So we might have to take some additional time off and start slow and start maybe fighting guys that maybe are not on that level to try to get it right. But I mean, if he can, if he's able, because some people are not able to be versatile. from the standpoint of fighting different styles. But he has the goods because he can bang you. He has the uppercut. He's great inside. And if you can expand that out, man, yeah, you don't want to see him. You do not want to see him because it would just put him in a different level in as far as that is concerned. So particularly imagine that in that division, a guy that size being able to move around, change the styles up, he caused some major problems.
Well, I was going to say, the guy that popped into my head with the styles change was Jared Hurd. You remember he was a brawler. That was his style. He took a lot of punches, and because he was in like 3 brawls in a row, his team was getting worried. So he fired everybody and got a new team, and they tried to make him a boxer. And actually, he did box pretty well, but he lost.
Right.
He lost before that, but he lost this fight, and you could tell he was like, well, I don't know what I am anymore.
Right.
Am I a slugger? Am I a boxer? Am I a boxer puncher? Am I a puncher boxer? And he is caught between 2 styles, and you haven't seen him since. I think he's, and it made sense because if you don't have a straight, narrow-minded plan, like we were saying, of what you're going to do, going into a ring to fight another man, that's not good. Not good. And then you change your plan like Lubin did, worse.
Okay, we've got one to come up next week or this weekend. But Charles, you made me think of something. I want you to because you brought something up that a lot of people have brought up, that once they figured out Mike Tyson's style, let's say I'm going to throw was it Jesse Ferguson? Let's just throw a Jesse Ferguson out there. Let's say that he had seen the Buster Douglas fight before he fought Mike Tyson. He said, "Oh, I see the formula." Does he still have a chance?
No, because let's be real.
Okay.
Not the style is understanding the formula is one thing, but you got to be able to have the skills to do it too. So you got to have the talent. I mean, you look at Evander Holyfield, as much as he was banging Tyson around and stuff like that too, you got to have the ability to punish him and hurt him in such a way that even though you know the blueprint, you got to be able to deliver. Because that's how you were able to frustrate Tyson. Tyson was usually running in and putting his head on people and then just being so wild. And if you did catch him, you didn't catch him with enough punches that he was able to recoup and keep the attack going. But if you're leaning on him, pushing him off, whatnot, and catching him with shots to making him go back, now you're starting to get him to think that what his plan is not working. He becomes frustrated and he starts making mistakes. But you have to, the point of it is you have to have skills enough to hurt him to do so. And unfortunately, Jesse Ferguson didn't have that.
Okay, because, and again, I don't want to belabor this, but the idea being, John, I keep hearing this, and this isn't on Charles, this is on the boxing mental whatever in general. Is like they figure out Mike Tyson. I don't think they did. I just think that he got to the point where he couldn't do what he was doing before. Well, hear me out. Because I think if that's the case, then a Bone Crusher Smith could have done it, and a couple other guys. I don't think they necessarily figured out the pattern. It's just that, like Charles said, there were guys who were able to withstand the punishment, they're able to fight back. I think up until that point, and again, we look at a plethora of guys that they fought that he fought that couldn't really do a lot, and we realize that in hindsight. But I just think that he did what he could do against people that couldn't withstand the punishment. And then when he found a couple of guys that were like, because I don't think he was frustrated with Buster Douglas. I think Buster Douglas fought a great fight. I don't think Buster Douglas frustrated him to the point where he's like, I don't know what to do with this guy, because that otherwise he wouldn't have had that knockdown that preceded Buster Douglas coming back and winning the fight. I think Tyson thought he was doing what he's supposed to do. I'm just not getting to him right now, but I will eventually.
Well, that's interesting. I remember when he fought Quick Tillis, and Tillis went 10 rounds with him and frustrated him, did a lot, but he didn't have the skill to beat him.
Right.
But he showed how you could survive, and that's what Bone Crusher did. Smith basically, he just basically survived, held him on the inside, remember, and it did that. You know, I don't totally disagree with you, Frank, but I think when he fought like a guy like Buster Douglas, he fought a guy who had his greatest night of his life, and he was fighting a bigger guy who had a great jab. He ran into a guy that that beat him and might have beat him again if they had fought again. And just same with Holyfield. Holyfield had his number. Everybody, even they said when they fought in the amateurs, Holyfield beat him up when they were sparring. Holyfield, the Saint did Evander Holyfield. Oh, don't get me started. Didn't do anything wrong. Doesn't headbutt or do anything, or even hit a guy in the amateurs. Oh, okay. But he just had his number. It was just one of those deals where Holyfield would beat him all day. It just, I don't know what it is about that with some guys, but he would have. So I think it's a mixture of both. That's what I would say. I think for a while, Tyson, nobody could do what they thought they needed to do. My dad used to say, my late lamented father used to say, just wait until he fights a guy who's got a little more skill and can take it.
Right.
Well, he fought a guy he fought a few guys like Mitch Green, like Blood Green. Blood Green went the distance with him, except on the street. I guess he got knocked out the street. That's something else. But he went the distance with him, and he couldn't beat him, though. And then it just progressed, and possibly Tyson might have lost a little, after the Douglas fight, maybe of himself a little bit, his whole persona. But Tyson is always going to be polarizing. People will say this and this, and he obviously had his flaws too. And I get the whole side of the argument, but for a while he was damn good. I'll say that about him. But I'd say so. Charles isn't totally wrong. He was a one-trick pony, but he was sure a quick one-trick pony in a lot of ways. I mean, he'd do that. I mean, he was.
And Charles, what I was trying to say was, it's not that they figured out how to survive. They didn't figure out how to beat him. And I don't know if they could have. It would have taken a Holyfield, or again, the night of Buster Douglas's life, or something like that. I don't think these guys, Bone Crusher Smith survived. He wasn't going to beat him. So anyway, let's get off of that real quick because
can I tell you about that though?
Sure.
But I think when you say that though, I didn't say because you knew the style, how to defeat him. The formula doesn't mean you're going to win. Okay. I guess my point of it is, you can say Buster Douglas had the night of his life, but he did the things that made Tyson uncomfortable.
Sure.
It's the same way with Holyfield. He did the things with the jab, which is why I said before, Joe Frazier would beat him. Because Joe Frazier understood what was going on and he could punish him and frustrate him. So I guess my point is, along with knowing the formula, you had to have the skills to understand and take advantage of it. And I think that's where all the accolades you want to give Tyson, he was dynamite, he did what he had to do, or whatever. But like you said, he has kryptonite, and those that knew how to use the kryptonite and punish him because they had the skill set, he would lose. So I guess that's the reason why I said before, I would never consider him my top 5 heavyweights.
Okay, right. So we need to get moving. But one word answer, yes or no. Larry Holmes, yes or no, beats him. John.
Oh, when he was in his prime?
Yeah, Larry Holmes' prime versus Mike. Okay, Charles.
Yeah.
Okay, that answers everything to me. Okay, and I'm with you on that. So that answers everything. So for those of you that are upset with us, too bad we already answered. Moving on. Okay, now we're moving on to something that I think is Ugas and Spence. This to me is one of those things. This is coming up this weekend. We've been waiting to see Errol Spence Jr. and actually see him. This is the one we're going to see. Is he going to be Errol Spence Jr. or is it just another fight against another guy? That is, to me, is the major question. Is it just another guy, or is it another guy that beat Pacquiao, or is it just another one that they throw out there and we're waiting for the Crawford fight? Charles, is this the fight that we need to see, or is it just the fight that we need to see right now?
I think it's a fight we need to see because, love it or hate it, Ugas, he earned the belt, right? He earned the belt, so he deserves that. So there's some other ways that Spence could have went, but he said he's about the strap, so he's about the belt. So I think it's a fight that you want to see. How he got there in regards to Pacquiao, him beating Pacquiao, and depends on what side of the fence you are. It's a great accomplishment because Pacquiao's a legend, but then others will tell you that Pacquiao's on the downside, right? He's on the downside of his career. So you kind of look at that too. But no, I think it's a great fight because of the fact that Ugas has earned the right to be there. He's done what he can do. So all you can do at that point is just acknowledge him and give him his shot, right? But on the other hand, You got to look at Spence, man. Every time you call him to the mat, he delivers. And that's how I look at it. I think that's what this fight is going to be now. He's on the mat again against the guy that everybody's talking about. He's been from all the stuff he went through like that, but Spence doesn't care, bro. He's showing you right now he doesn't care who you put in front of me. I'm ready to go. So, no, I think it's a fight we need to see because Ugas has earned the opportunity.
Well, John, we've got a common opponent in Sean Porter. Does that mean anything as far as how we're handicapping this fight?
Nah, I don't think so. I think that Errol Spence that's going into this fight is a different guy than we've seen recently. Based on what I've seen, what I've heard, Ugas's trainer said something about he's not the same guy anymore, and I don't mean it like that. That's a negative, the way he said after the accident, the Danny Garcia fight. I get the feeling that Errol Spence is fighting like a guy, or will be fighting like a guy, believe it or not, who's got something to prove.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a dangerous combination when somebody's got something to prove and they're really, really determined to prove it. Now, Ugas is really underrated. He is a live opponent. He is good as they say, and he's a very quiet kind of a person. He's going to be the best shape he can be. He's going to try to be the best Ugas he can be. And I expect this fight to be very competitive for a number of rounds. But you know what they say about the cream normally rises to the top. So I think this is a good fight. I think it's going to be a competitive fight. And I just got a feeling that this Errol Spence will be different than the one we saw, but not just because physically he's probably better from everything that's happened to him with his surgery and that horrific accident. I think mentally he's different now. That accident did something to him in a positive way. I mean, he's obviously very fortunate to even be with us. And I think he realizes it. And and I think he said, I think during one of his interviews, look, I wasn't really even taking it all that seriously for a while. And he seems to be taking it very seriously. So if it all comes together for him, Ugas better watch out. Errol Spence, when he's on, and people have forgotten this already, which blows my mind. I mean, a few years ago, the guy is an animal. I mean, come on. He fights downhill. He punishes people. And it's like people are like, yeah, so that tells you the short-term memory loss that boxing fans have. Because if he reminds people and stops Ugas, then that'll be there you go. Because he's that good.
Well, I used to have a screensaver. This is how long ago it says the cream always rises to the top. But if it takes too long, it might get a little spoiled. So anyway, the idea being, it got me fired from that job anyway, but the idea being that, look, if this is the guy that we think he is, this is, I think, the fight he has to show it. Because now we're getting to the point of, we've been not fighting Crawford. We've been not fighting this. Okay. If he doesn't show that he is the cream of the division in this fight, in my opinion, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong. If he doesn't show that he is the man, then he can no longer start saying, well, you don't deserve to fight me. I mean, this is the fight where I think he says, I've drawn my line in the sand. This is it. You guys have to come correct or not come at all. But if he doesn't come correct, then what's to stop the Crawford fight from the Crawford people going, well, you didn't show us anything either, so bring it on.
No, I agree with that. He does have to step up. I think he wants to have an exceptional performance because he says he's the best. He says he's the top dog. He's the big fish. As John mentioned before, I think, though, he's taking that personal. It's like, you know what, to the standpoint of you don't really think I'm that good. And, Ugas is getting a lot of love and he deserves it. I mean, he did what he had to do. He came back from being off for a while and he's worked his way back up. And then you mentioned before about fighting Sean Porter. But the one thing you don't talk about is, we're not saying that before, is Ugas is not fighting Manny Pacquiao. Ugas is not fighting Sean Porter. He's fighting Errol Spence. And Spence, again, has risen to the top. He's shown you how he is, too. And I think the other thing nobody's really talking about, everybody's talking, other people have mentioned about the Crawford people about Errol Spence being scared. But the one thing you notice, his tune has changed, right? A couple of times. They talk about, well, he wanted the 80-20 if he fights Crawford, right? He's like, nah, that's too crazy. He's getting closer, I think, to the point, as he's already said a number of times now, that he's preparing to move from 147. He's prepared to move up. It's already, I can't keep making this weight. So I want the straps. I want to fight Ugas. I want to beat him. And then unless Terrence Crawford did something totally, completely crazy, I'm going to fight him. And I think mentally, as John said, that Spence now is thinking it's time to go ahead and handle both of this. He's not saying it, but it's like, I'm going to take care of Ugas, and everybody, I only have to say it. Y'all know what's next. I'm coming for him. So mentally, it's like, I'm going to show y'all. I'm going to have to talk about it. You want me to come out and go, yeah, I can't wait to fight, blah, blah. He's not doing that. He's like, I'm already thinking that. And now I'm thinking, when am I going to do a 154? Do I have to fight Charlo? I'm telling you, when you see his focus, he's already there. We're trying to catch up. The media and the public are behind. I almost can guarantee you the way that he thinks and doesn't say anything, they already got this plan. Now, what happens? He still got to fight. He still has to win, right? But mentally preparing and thinking how strong of a mental person he is and all of the stuff that he's been through, dude's on point, bro. He's already on point.
Well, John, what does Ugas bring to this? Because this is and we've done this in the last few months now. This guy's blah, 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 and we, being all of us, have said, and he's fighting somebody else. But the somebody else has popped up and won a few times now. Who is the somebody else in this fight? What does he have to bring to the table?
Well, I think what happened with Ugas, with Sean Porter and Pacquiao, was that they underestimated him.
As most of us are right now.
Right. I don't think Errol Spence is underestimating him. Not from the guy I saw. He's laser. He's in. He's on, like Charles said, using his phrase, he's on point. He knows what he's fighting. He's fighting an unorthodox, awkward guy who is a stinker in a lot of ways, who can make you look bad because he's that good. He's like a Winky Wright, and nobody wanted to fight Winky Wright because Winky was so good defensively and he'd make you look bad. And it was almost like a lose-lose in a way. Even if you win, you wouldn't win. You would like, I didn't even see the fight. I don't care. It's like we were saying about Ryan Garcia's fight. So Ugas is getting his due finally. He's been this good. He's lost a few fights, not recently. And as I've said a few times on the show, I thought he won against Sean Porter. I thought that was a gift. Sean got a gift. I liked Sean, so I was happy he got the gift in a way. But then part of me was like, that wasn't right. Ugas deserved that. And then what he did to Manny Pacquiao, as we know, was the last 6 rounds was very one-sided. Pacquiao couldn't even reach him, couldn't even touch him. Never really hit him solid. So what Spence is facing on Saturday night in Texas is a challenge for sure. This guy is, I think he's finally getting his due. And that's the flip side of what you guys were just saying. If Ugas doesn't necessarily win, but really looks good and loses a close decision to Errol Spence, then his stock will go up. And then Spence's will go down. That's when the winner wins and loses. That's why this crazy sports is so crazy. You can win and lose. And sometimes I don't get that. It's like when a guy, a basketball guy, right? When a guy goes 9 for 28, and it's like, yeah, but there was a guy guarding him that was really doing a good job, and you don't even say anything about that. Okay, maybe he was off a little, but the defensive player gets no credit. The team gets no credit for doing what they did to throw him off. Like when Jordan would have a bad night, it would be like all on him. No. And so this is the thing with this fight, is that there's a lot of pressure, but I think Ugas has a chance to really show everyone, even if he loses, which we think he will, I'm sure, to show everyone how good he is. And he's that good. This is no easy fight for Errol Spence. It's very good in a lot of ways for boxing that he took this fight, because Ugas beat Pacquiao, and here's another belt chance for him, and he wants the belts. Fighters always want all those belts. So, yeah, it should be a good one.
Well, Charles, on the other end of that, what does Spence have to prove? Or what hasn't he proved in the last few fights, or whatever? Is he healthy? What is it that he's going to say, I want to show you all this?
Well, I think he wants to prove that he's healthy. I think he wants to prove that he's thankful that he got another chance, because to him, he's thinking twice his career could have been over. One, he could have lost his life in the traffic accident. The second time with the detached retina, he could have been blind in the eye if he'd have moved forward. So I think we'll show you that he's healthy, but he also wants to show he's the guy, man. He doesn't say it often, but he wants to show you, I'm number one. I'm the best, and I really am the A side. So I'm not going to belabor it, but I think he wants to show you that. And if he handles Ugas and defeats him soundly, then the next question is going to be, who wants to see Crawford? And I think he's going to jump up at it and go, if they come to the table and they want to do it right without a bunch of talking, we'll assign the dot. Because I think he's tired of just, I say this easy, pussyfooting around. Y'all want to see it, I'm going to give it to you. I'm no longer going to go, oh, well, you got to work your way. No, it's time. I waited. I did it on my time. I'm going to fight this last fight at 147. If you don't want to do it, I'll find somebody else, and I'm going to 154. Then I got to worry about, do I need to fight Charlo? So, I think the plan is already made. It's just whether or not the pieces are going to fit. Now, does he have to still win the fight? Yes. But I think he is. And I like Ugas. I'm not saying he doesn't have a chance, but I'll leave it here. When Spence had needed to rise to the occasion against marquee talent, real marquee talent, where it was on the line, Sean Porter's a perfect example. He rose to the occasion. And as John said, when he needed that shot in the 11th round, everybody was like, oh, Sean was like, all he can do is try to hit the canvas because he knew that was the difference maker. And I think that's who Sean Porter will at some point, not Sean Porter, but Errol Spence will do at some point in the middle of the way, whatever might be round 7, might be round 10. He's going to rise and he's going to give you that thing. You're going to go, damn, Ugas look good, and I could be wrong, but I had to go off of what I see. And Spence has not shown me anything differently that will prove to me that he's not going to get this done.
Well, it's something we don't normally do. We kind of give people an idea of where we're going, what we're seeing, how things will play out. But let's call it, John. Who wins it? What round?
Well, I honestly am leaning towards Spence, and I think if he two ways, obviously, and it's not going to be fast. I think if he wins, it'll be late by stoppage, or he's going to win a decision relatively handily. Like 8 rounds to 4, 9 rounds to 3. I think the first 3 or 4 rounds will be very competitive, maybe 5 rounds, and maybe Spence will be ahead like 3 rounds to 2, or maybe even Ugas might be ahead 3 rounds to 2. But as soon as Spence gets going, gets in that downhill mode, because he's not very fast or anything. He's just very heavy-handed and very consistent. And as soon as he finds his rhythm, he's been out of the ring a while, so it might take him a little time. Then I don't think Ugas has got enough firepower to keep him off him. A while ago, one of the concerns about Spence was his chin. We weren't sure about his chin, because that was just because he got wobbled in it as an amateur, and people were always waiting for him to be wobbled as a pro. I don't think he's even been wobbled once as a pro. He might really be doing it like Roy Jones. He might be protecting his chin really good. But I don't think so. I think he's got a good chin. But yeah, it's a fight. It's just going to be one of those fights like a train picking up speed. Think of it like that, where he'll be chugging along, doing pretty good, maybe winning by a little bit, and then he's going to pick up a little more speed. He's going to move to that next level, and Ugas is going to be on the defensive, because here he comes, and those body shots that he throws, that Errol Spence throws, are devastating. So yeah, late stoppage, 10 or 11, or unanimous decision.
Anything different, Charles?
Yep. I think it's gonna be a little earlier. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a little earlier than that. Because I think Ugas is gonna try. He's gonna keep trying to do what he does and try to show his will early on. And I think once Spence starts getting that rhythm and find out what I need to do I need to box inside with him? Do I need to bang with him inside? Do I need to box him on the outside? Once he finds out where he's vulnerable, it's weird. And I hate to bring up that name, but it reminds me of a technician, somebody that can move in and out and just waits until they see what the issue is, and then they go forward. But I think Spence, I wanted to say I was going to go 8 with Marcus Johnson, but I think I'm going to go in the 9th round. Something about that. I just think in round 9, give you enough time to get the cobwebs out, and then it's like, okay, because here's one thing too, I don't think Ugas will stop. I think when he gets hurt, he's going to still come forward like he's still in it because he has something to prove. And that's that proud Cuban, being that proud Cuban that he is. And I think that's going to cause a major problem because you go, instead of trying to box and hold and, do the things that you do to keep your energy up and allows you to last longer, I think his pride is going to get in the way. And once Errol Spence, what he does best is, like Sean Porter found out, like a train, you keep coming, I'm gonna have a wall and I'm gonna just break you down. And that's one of the things where you have to, if you're gonna win, beat a guy like that, you have to know when to kind of back off and try something different to stay in the focus of the fight. And I think Ugas' pride is gonna be to his detriment, is gonna be the thing that hurts him. Because once Spence catches him, you're gonna see the blood flowing and everything, and he's still coming up, and he's gonna do what he has to do. So that's why I say round 9, Spence.
Well, I'm going to take it even a little further earlier than that. I'm going to say 6. And the reason being, because Ugas has gone the distance in this last 6 or 7 fights, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he's going to get to the point early to find out, if he hasn't already made that decision, he's not going to win a decision here. We talk about you got to beat the man to beat the man. All that is all fine and good, but he's going against a higher skilled fighder that is not going to allow him to win that many rounds.
And in his own backyard.
Right, exactly.
Texas.
Yeah, right. So, and you said, 9-3, something like that. You're not going to win that fight. So I don't even think he's going to try to. I think he's going to have to come out and try and do something that's really counterintuitive to who he is, and say, I'm going to have to go for the blowout early, and that's going to open himself up for more things. And we know how good Spence is. He's going to pot shot him a couple of times, and he's going to walk into something. Boom, that's going to be it. So I think it's going to be because of what Ugas has to do, and what he may not know it now, but he may know it after about the first 30 seconds of the fight and go, I'm not winning this fight because of skill. I have to win it because of will. And that's going to open himself up and get a little more wild, a little more loose. And we know Spence, if he's right here in front of you, you're dead meat. So at least that's the way I see it. So, and again, this is the fun part of how this is going to play out, because it could go in any other scenario. Just because I got the last one right doesn't mean I'm going to get this one right. That's another story entirely. But the idea being that it's a possibility I get 2 right in the same year. So why not this one? All right. So we're looking at a lot of things here. We really wanted to keep from going to the future even further, because now we have what we're looking for. So each week we should be able to say, now let's focus on this one. So this is the one, I think. But as Charles mentioned, a couple of things I thought were very interesting. We'll get off to this here in a second. That if this plan is in place, which it sounds like from what you're saying, it makes sense, that if this plan is in place, go Ugas, then go Crawford, then go Charlo, or however you want to work it out. There are so many things that open up here, because now we have a wide open welterweight division, which has really been kind of closed for a little while. Because let's say if we eliminate Spence from the division, and we eliminate Crawford from contention, where do we go now? So I think this is a great fight, because if Spence just blows him out like it seems like he could, then he goes to Crawford after that, and then that kind of just opens up everything. The welterweights are now wide open. We've got guys maybe moving up. We've got guys moving here. There's just so many things can happen. So keep an eye on things, because this is a bigger fight than just the fight itself. This has got a lot more to it than just the fight itself. So there's a lot more ramifications for it. So again, folks, thank you very much. Keep an eye on this one, because it's going to be, no matter how it plays out, it's going to be Errol Spence, and you haven't seen Errol Spence at top form in a while. So I think we're going to see that. So, and if Ugas can come to the table and bring something to it, even better. Thanks again. This is Ultimate Sports Network. Enjoy yourself, folks. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.